desolate and vain environment. Being exposed to this negative environment is not a problem. We are to expect adversity, trials and tribulations. However, as children of God, if we are not influencing the kingdom of God in this environment, that is the problem. Join us as we learn and discover our mandate and authority as children of God to influence the kingdom of God in our world today.
Welcome back, Kingdom Youth, to another evening. We thank you so much for joining us. We always look forward to sharing all this knowledge and wisdom with you in your journey to becoming a leader. So with that being said, as we know, we are continuing with the topic about how to develop yourself as a leader. Previously, myself and Ambassador Precious, we were going deep into leadership and discipline. And I trust that those of you who didn't get to watch the previous briefings, you have caught up to date, because today we are going to be talking about leadership and motive. So just to give a bit of background, we're basically going to be looking at what is it that's motivating you to want to become a leader? What is that thing that is pushing you towards wanting to walk in that direction? I just want to welcome Ambassador Precious again. I welcome you back to Kingdom Youth. Ambassador Precious, can you please greet the viewers?
Thank you for having me, Ambassador Jackie. Hello, viewers. Hello, Kingdom Youth. Everybody who's watching online, thank you so much for coming back here. We're looking forward to sharing with you all these beautiful things that we have for you today.
Thank you so much. I always look forward to having these conversations, like I said, with you, because you always just bring so much knowledge, wisdom, and perspective and insight. So I don't want to waste too much time. I just want to go right into what we're talking about today. Today, as I said, we're talking to you viewers all about your motive behind becoming a leader. So in my briefing that I did, I just highlighted on this a little bit, that I feel that sometimes when one makes this decision to want to become a leader, whether it's like the captain of a sports team, an RCL, a youth leader in varsity, a youth leader in church, in your community, whatever it might be, becoming like an influencer, because that's also being a leader online, having a YouTube channel, whatever the case might be, that it's important to think about why is it that you want to go that direction, you know? So what are your thoughts? What's the first thought that pops into your mind around this?
You know what? I am thinking now about what Dr. Miles said, or what I read in one of his books.
Okay.
I think it's the Spirit of Leadership, the book that I read, Spirit of Leadership. What he was saying there is, I actually, before I even get to that, as you were talking like this,
yes,
I felt touchy about something that someone said to me at work the other day.
Okay.
It wasn't a nice thing that he said about me and leadership. And it was following what I'm going to share now about what Dr. Miles said in that book. He said that we are all leaders. We are all born leaders. There used to be this notion that there are certain people who are born leaders and others are just probably born to follow. And they would say that they are born leaders because of their charisma or because of whatever reason that they associate who they appear to be with leadership. Yes. And Dr. Miles says we are all born leaders because of who we come from. And because there will never be another Jackie and there will never be another Precious. You are in your own class on your own, and I'm in my own class and on my own as an individual. That makes me a leader because I carry the mandate of dominion. Dominion on its own is it's leadership. To dominate is to lead. So he says that we are all leaders in the area of our purpose, in the area that we were created for. So what you were created to do, your uniqueness makes you a leader in that area. Even if there can be 100 singers and you were also called to be one of those voices, only you can do it your way. And there is that perspective to leadership. I just wanted to clarify that we are all leaders in our own right. And then there is that leadership that I think concerns a position or a role
Yes, of course.
So there is those two things whereby then I got to learn in the journey of life. You know, previously I also used to think that you know, leaders or leadership is only for certain people.
Yes, of course.
I used to shy away from leadership positions. There can be so many reasons why: lack of confidence or lack of understanding, or whatever it is that can make one to not associate themselves with. Or maybe it's because I understood that it's not position, it's a role, and you can feel like maybe you're not qualified for a certain role.
And can I just take it back a bit, what you're saying? I think it's now that we're talking about, you know, leadership and motive, I actually just want to take it a bit back to how we grew up, you know, in school, from preschool, primary, high school. If you think about like the education system that we were raised in, we were always raised in a system that said we are selecting these certain, you know, individuals to be leaders because of certain characteristics. And often, you know, as kids, we were made to feel that if you are not chosen, then it means that you don't have those qualities, you don't have those attributes to become a leader. So I think that's why it's important to teach a child from a young age that, like what you said, because of who we come from, we all are dominating in whatever purpose we've been called for.
Absolutely.
And to not think that because I was not selected, it means I'm counted out. That we are all actually counted in. It's just that, like you said, that it goes in two directions. There's the leadership where you are in a position, then there's the leadership where you are dominating, you know? And I just think it's very important to actually correct that, because I think a lot of us, we have been so discouraged because of that, where sometimes because you experience that throughout your life, throughout your childhood, maybe when you get to the working world and maybe your boss, you know, sees potential in you, you tend to shy away because you're like, but I'm not a leader.
The corrosion.
I was never chosen for anything.
Yeah.
So you don't have anything motivating you, you know, to go in that direction, because it's almost like that thing has been planted in your mind that you don't have what it takes.
Yeah.
Whereas from what you're saying, we actually all have what it takes.
Oh, yes.
You know, but now I just want to bring it back a little bit. You know, when I was thinking about this whole thing of motive, if you look at the world we're living in today, if we have to be real, young people, if we have to be real, even in politics, it's as if there's this trend that leadership goes along with corruption. It's like if you are a leader, but you are not corrupt, then you are not the trending leader. Because if we see what's happening, not just in South Africa, but even in the world, people who are leading us in leadership positions, there's scandals coming out almost every day in the news about the things that they are doing. And to the point where other people become discouraged, even maybe young people who want to go into like your ANC youth leagues or women's league or whatever the case might be, you know, because they know that the expectation to be corrupt is going to be there. Whereas on the other side, there are also some young people who go into leadership positions because they've got those motives to be corrupt for self-gain. Maybe you could be doing it because you want fame, popularity. Now there's even different types of leadership, like starting a YouTube channel or an Instagram page to become because in being an influencer, you are actually a leader. There are people that you are leading, like what she said, in your purpose. But now, how do you discern your motive? How do you discern your motive? Because also, like in the world we're living in, it's almost like it's something that's encouraged, you know, to say, no, there's nothing wrong with corruption. There's nothing wrong with abusing your power, you know. How do you discern your motive to want to be in it? Now I'm talking about the leadership position.
Or that
for wanting to
position and role.
In that position, in that role. Even if you're in school and you're like, I want to become a team captain.
Yes.
Are you doing it because you want to be that guy who all the girls are looking? Because it happens. Let's be honest. It happens.
Yes.
Or because you're going to have access to certain opportunities.
What I think can help us all, irrespective of how young or how old we are, is the understanding of the role of leadership. Because once you occupy that position, it comes with responsibilities.
Yes.
There's something that you said in part 1 of this video, that everyone is always looking at you, or there are people who are looking at you, even if it's not everyone. So what you do has an influence to one person or the other, or a lot more. And the more you are in a position that's standing out, the more people can be able to see what you do, and they can be influenced by that negatively or positively. So once we understand that that position comes with responsibilities, then we begin to ask ourselves, can I be able to deliver what the role requires of me? Do you understand?
Yes.
If we are talking about the motive, is it something, what am I bringing to contribute to this? It shouldn't be that the position will serve me to validate me as a person, to validate that, because sometimes people just want validation of self, validation of whatever it is. So is it about that, or is it about you bringing to the table what is required in order for a certain thing to be accomplished? Because if we look at the role of leadership, what leaders are actually required to do is to bring, leadership is a role of order, a position of order, to say this one person then provides a platform and an environment for a particular thing to be fulfilled, a particular task to be fulfilled. It cannot be all of us who goes to communicate a thing.
Of course.
One person. So from that order, from that perspective of saying leadership has to be connected with bringing order, then what is it that you are bringing that you know that you are going to use to empower others to want to contribute? Because when you are in a position of leadership, we are talking about a captain, you know, then people must be motivated by you. People are going to want to look up to you. And are you in a position, are you the kind of person that people can want to multiply what you are dishing out? Do you understand? Because when you are in a leadership role, people tend to automatically want to do as you do. That's why you find the perpetration now of corruption, because now we see this person is doing this, and it's like they are thriving, or there are no consequences, or what have you. And
it becomes attractive.
It becomes attractive, and it becomes a trend. So that is the thing about understanding the role.
So I just want to take it back a little bit, right? Because as we know, we don't all come from the same backgrounds. That often, a lot of people, you know, you made to feel that you are only good enough if you are getting A's in school, if you're the lead, you know, the leader of the team captain, for example, if you are an RCL, if you were elected for A, B, and C, you know. Often, you know, as kids, we are raised with that thing that it's only when you are in that position that's praised, that's, you know, given that attention, that it means you are successful, you are thriving. So I think sometimes as a young person, you end up connecting your self-worth to being in a leadership position, you know, and sometimes you end up thriving for leadership because you are made to, this thing is implanted in your mind from school, sometimes even from family, community, that it is only those people in leadership positions who are thriving in life. I don't know if you get where I'm going with this. So I think it's important for us to address this as well, because it is a reality for a lot of young people, and it affects their self-esteem. I mean, I remember I was once watching this movie, and these people were like basically auditioning for a certain role. It's a very, very old movie. It has to do with like ballet. I just can't remember the name, but I think, yes, it's called Center Stage. It's an old ballet movie. And I remember how these girls, I mean, ballet is another industry on its own. They would starve themselves. They would do all sorts of things because they wanted to be good enough to be in the leading role, because they were made to feel that if you don't make it to the leading role, then And they were all good ballerinas, dancers, to be quite honest, but they were made to feel that then you are not good enough if you are not the leading, where some would even go as far as backstabbing others. So I just want us to talk about this because it is a reality where a lot of young people are made to feel that their self-worth and self-esteem, and this is external pressures, is linked to being in a leadership position.
Yeah, it goes back to knowing who you are. If you know who you are, it becomes so much easier to not seek validation from these external things or from a position whereby it's so approved and so applauded. Because then the need for you to be applauded, you would not want to feed from, you know, putting yourself in a position that you might not necessarily have you know, sometimes the tools to perform in that way. However, I want to say this, that desiring to be in a leadership position is encouraged even by Paul himself. You know, the Apostle Paul says, encourages us to desire to be in those positions. And it becomes such a beautiful thing when it comes from a healthy perspective, when you have identified that you have something that you want to contribute, there is a need that you can feel in that. And what you bring will actually take the organization forward, it will take the team forward, it will contribute positively. Then that's where now we are talking about positive motivation.
Yes.
Whereby you are bringing who you are, because that's what actually you know, effective leadership does. When you bring who you are, and then that affects, you know, the environment and the people that you are leading to also do the same thing, because they are going to follow suit as to who you are actually, or how you do things in that position of, or in that role of leadership. Is going to be multiplied. So we really need to be careful, inspect within us, what is it about us that wants us to do that? And if it's not going to serve the role or the organization positively, maybe then we need to take a step back, you know, in a moment of reflection and inspection, to say, then I need to feed this thing or address it in this way, so that when I go out there, I don't bleed into the public. I don't mislead the people. I don't misdirect the company or bring down the vision, because sometimes the vision is great.
Yes.
But now the carrier and the ambassador of the vision, you know, if we are not clear on that. So it's a beautiful thing to desire to be in a leadership role.
Definitely.
And it should be that we desire to contribute. We can see that there is something that we have that can actually benefit the organization, the vision, and the people that we want to
I think
lead.
it also like reminds me of what I did mention in my briefing when I said that leadership is actually serving. So I was touching on the fact that that is why, in my experience, I've learned that it's important to start serving first before you can lead. Because leadership, it's actually servanthood. Those two things are actually linked.
So much,
Yeah.
so much. Because sometimes we see it as this glamorous thing.
Of course.
Come and serve me, you know, when you're in leadership. Actually, I think from the beginning of the video until now, we've had the perspective of leadership as servanthood.
Yes, of course.
Because we are talking about what you're bringing, what you're going to give. It should be from that perspective. What are you going to give more than what you're going to receive? And we see, I'm going to refer to the greatest leader of all time. I agree with Dr. Miles.
Of course.
Jesus Christ. He served. He served to a point of washing the feet of the people. So we, in that role, we need to know that it's not just delegating and saying you do this and you go there, but we also bring ourselves and we serve. Servanthood
I think
leadership.
also
That's kingdom leadership. Actually.
It is kingdom leadership.
Kingdom leadership is servanthood leadership. More about what we can give and what we can do.
And I'm thinking, even
receive.
when you think about like leaders who people talk about to this day, who've passed on, like you said, Dr. Miles, people like Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa. I'm just mentioning the popular ones that I'm sure all the viewers, we are familiar with them. You know, people like Steve Biko, for example. they were actually serving the people, and that is what made them stand out and made us talk about them even till today. You know, even when you read some of their quotes, and it wasn't even their quotes, it's just things that they would live by that people are now adopting. It's because if you look at all these people, they were serving their people, and in them doing that, their followers became more invested in whatever vision it is that they were actually bringing forward. So they understood that as much as they were leaders, but they were actually, it's almost like leadership, and you touching something very deep. It's making me think, guys, that leadership is actually a higher level of servanthood. So what are your thoughts around that?
Sure. You're making my heart merry when you mention all these people, because the difference between them and the leader that would want to assume a role is that for them, they didn't necessarily seek to be in any position.
Yes.
What they saw was a need in humanity. And they said, this is not going to continue for as long as I live. We can refer back to the first point that they actually dominated in their area.
Thank you.
Because that domination means that you will not put up with certain things. You are not going to allow certain things to carry on your watch. So as they were addressing those things, as they were serving the world with their gift, like for example, if we talk about Martin Luther King, how he was able to serve the world with him being civil and so diplomatic, you know, having a way to address issues, you know, to say, I understand this is not right, but this is the way that I would like us to go about it. That makes him stand out.
And he was thriving in his purpose.
He was thriving in his purpose. He wasn't seeking for leadership. He wasn't seeking for fame. Now, the difference between maybe that YouTuber, and I'm not bashing it.
No, because we also on YouTube.
Yes, because we also on YouTube. The difference between one who seeks fame and one who wants to serve is that fame automatically comes to the one who serves. And do you know how famous Jesus was? We were reading in Luke the other day, and we saw that when he was passing through Jericho, there was a commotion.
Yes.
There was the crowds. Jesus Christ was famous. The crowds.
Everybody wanted to see. People were calling each other, saying, he's here.
He's here. Even the blind man was like, what's this commotion? And they said, Jesus is passing by. He didn't have to ask, who's Jesus? What song does he sing? Why are people that's when he said, Jesus, son of David. Do you understand? Have mercy on me. Because he already knew who he was. Why? Because he was serving. He was moving in his purpose. So the fame comes automatically without you seeking for it.
And also, just to talk about that with this whole thing about discerning and the fame, I think we could even reword it and say that it's more like you are being celebrated for your gift. So your gift, it will open certain doors for you, especially when you're doing it from the right place, from the right heart, that you will be celebrated for your gift. And I think that's why it's important, like you said, going back to the first point, that we are all called to dominate. When you are dominating in whatever you are called for, whether, guys, you want to become like a makeup artist or a lawyer, or you want to start your own business or become a musician, whatever it might be, if you are dominating in what you are doing, automatically you will become celebrated and elevated because of you are walking where you are. You know, because if you think about it, there's also a word we always like reciting that says that basically the world is waiting for the revelation of the sons and daughters, meaning that the world is awaiting for you to take your position, because in you taking your position, like you said, you are filling that gap, you are filling that need when you are walking in your purpose, you know?
You know, when you are saying that, this is gonna address now the need to be validated, because walking in your purpose fulfills you automatically.
Yes.
Then you don't have any need to want to be seen, to want to be anything, because already you are fulfilled
from within.
That radiates, that attracts the right kind of people, and that, you know, it just you know, aligns and falls, makes things fall into place.
So, Ambassador Precious, I just want to take it back a little bit before we wrap up. What do you say to someone I will also give my thoughts as maybe our closing remarks. What do you say to someone who is currently, as we speak, finding themselves in that position where they're in a leadership position, but they didn't have the right motive, or they're in a leadership position and they're being corrupt and they're not really honoring what do you say to someone who is in that position? What can they do in that situation? Yeah.
There is nothing, or there is no one, there is no situation that is so far gone that it cannot be redeemed, that it cannot be saved. So what I would say to that person who has identified that would be to take a step back and reflect on what is it on the inside of them that might have motivated them to go down that route and find themselves in that position. And it will honor them and the people that they are serving to review and I'm talking about revisiting and just redoing the whole thing, taking a step back to say, okay, let me rather shift this to someone who might serve the role better until I have worked on myself enough to show up in a way that will serve me and the people that I am serving better than I am now. Because it does not help to give from a position of guilt or shame. Yeah.
Interesting. That's quite deep and I think valuable. What I also just want to add is that I think also going back to something we've been talking about in this leadership series a lot is mentorship. If you identify that, I think maybe I took a left turn or something went wrong, go back. There's so many mentors out there. Like I said, even if maybe you're going to start reading certain books, listening to certain, YouTube podcasts, or if you are lucky to identify someone you can go to, someone who's in a similar position and just to have that open relationship to say, I know I've been doing ABC, but I actually want to turn this around. Can you help me? Can you guide me? Can you walk this journey with me to redirect the path that I'm on? Because like you said, I also strongly believe, viewers, that there's nothing that can't be undone. There's nothing that can't, as long as you're still alive, you can undo anything. So I think just to identify mentors, people who can actually aid you in going in that different direction, so that you also have that support system as well. Because if you're already finding yourself in that position, there might also come a lot of opposition if now you're taking a different step and you're saying, for example, I don't want to be corrupt anymore. That can come with resistance as well. So to know when I'm navigating this, I have that support system to say, as I'm taking the steps, this is how I can improve. And just to, like you said, the first thing is just to take the step back and acknowledge. And once you've done that, come up with a plan to get out of. But there is a way to get out of that.
There is always a way. There definitely is always a way.
Yes, definitely.
And having mentors actually puts you in a position where you have people that you are accountable to.
Thank you.
I don't think that you can be a leader who doesn't have a leader.
No.
Because in as much as you are in a position of authority, there has to be someone who pours into you, who checks you, who motivates you, who, puts things into perspective for you. And I think also what is needed is that continuous development.
Of course.
That continuous development and just staying connected as well to revisiting the reasons why you are doing this, why did you do this, and what do you want to achieve with this, also will do you good. If you are in that position of leadership, the people that you are serving must actually be at the center. There is, which I think forms part of the reason why the people that you are serving and how you, because these things form part of your legacy. This is the legacy that you are leaving. As we are contributing now, somebody said that the world is run by dead men. You don't want to be in a position whereby the legacy that you have left behind is not serving you know, good. You know, from
Like
your
the people
contribution.
who we mentioned, that we still talk about them, even
Yeah,
they still influence
totally,
us
totally,
till this
totally,
day. We
up
still
to
quote
today.
them up to,
Totally.
we still use
Yes.
their values, the way that
Yes.
they did things up
Yes.
to today.
And there are those that we can refer to as well that have contributed rather maybe not so positively.
True.
As well. So, you know, legacy, I think if we can have that in mind, it will help us to be
Okay.
able to be sensitive.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right.
towards that.
Thank
yeah.
you. Thank you so much, viewers, for joining us tonight. And Ambassador Precious, I think we definitely are going to be calling you back again on this platform. I think I would just want to say that we need to remember, as we said at the beginning, we are all called to lead. We are all called to dominate, because that is our nature. So I just want us as young people to just go out there and just to dominate in whatever purpose that you have been called for. And if you don't know what your purpose is, start taking those steps to find your purpose, because the sooner you find it, the sooner you can start dominating. Thank you again for joining us on this journey all about how to develop yourself as a leader. And we look forward to seeing you on our next briefing, where we're going to be sharing more insights on how to grow and develop as a young person. Good night.